Watch this video.
Has been a lot of speculation about whether Israel would go it alone, would attack Iran all on its own. What does Mayor Dagan say about that?
Well, he thinks it's a mistake generally to make it an Israeli-Iranian issue. It should be an international issue. Somehow the Saudis should be encouraged to speak up and pressure the United States. And what he really would like to happen is Israel sits back and the Americans do it for the Israelis.
So you heard it straight from the horse's mouth. The Mossad wants the United States to go to war with Iran on their behalf. They want America to do the dirty work and carry the heavy load. And if you've noticed, there's been a lot of reports in the media recently of Israel threatening to preemptively attack Iran. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, the United States is currently engaged in negotiations with Iran over the nuclear program. So while Trump has declared that he wants a peaceful negotiation with Iran, behind his back, the Zionists have been organizing the Republicans and all their propagandists in the media to undermine Trump by mocking him, saying that you're going to look weak by renegotiating the same exact deal that Obama originally had with Iran 10 years ago that was torn up by Trump at the behest of the Zionists. Threatening to preemptively attack Iran is their method of throwing a wrench in the negotiations, which is very treasonous and treacherous from a supposed ally. They are essentially telling the US, whatever deal you make, we're gonna drag you into this war. And you heard it from the Mossad chief. He said that that's exactly what Israel wants. They want the conflict to be international. Why? Because they know the West will support the war with Iran if the United States is at the center of it. But if it's Israel versus Iran, it will lack full support. Another interesting thing is that the Mossad chief said they wanted Saudi Arabia to put pressure on Trump and ask him to go to war with Iran in order to destroy the nuclear sites. The problem is that Saudi Arabia and the Gulf countries like Qatar and the UAE have communicated to Trump that they don't want an attack on their nuclear sites. The question is, why? Well, take a look at this map right here. This is a list of all the US bases in the Middle East. An attack on Iran would prompt Iran to strike back and target US bases which are located in the Gulf. Now take a look at this map. This is a list of all the different oil facilities in the Middle East. Well, Iran can't really go head to head with the United States in an all-out war. They simply aren't powerful enough. Very few countries on earth are. But what Iran can do is destroy the US bases in the region, but also all the oil facilities in the region. They would essentially hold the global energy supply hostage. They would send prices skyrocketing by destroying the oil facilities, which would tank the global economy. Now, Iran doesn't want to do this. They've recently agreed to a peace deal and they're trying to cool tensions with Saudi Arabia, but they've threatened that they will do it if they're pushed to the edge. Now, let me just demonstrate to you how significant this kind of attack would be. Back in 2019, the Houthis attacked 2 oil facilities with basic drones and missiles. I say basic in comparison to what Iran could potentially fire at them. The attack set fire to the facilities and disrupted them for weeks, even months. This single attack by the Houthis, otherwise known as Ansar Allah, cut Saudi Arabia's oil supply in half. And this disrupted 5% of the entire global market, which sent prices rising for several weeks. This was just a basic drone attack on 2 facilities. Imagine if Iran unleashed their ballistic missiles and drones on all the oil facilities in the region. This would tank the Gulf economy, this would tank the global economy, and this would obviously usher in an era of instability that really can only be described as World War III. Despite this, the Israelis don't care. They want to blow up, literally, the agreement. And so they're threatening to preemptively attack Iran, which puts Iran in a position to not trust anything coming out of the United States. Their concern now is, if we agree to what you guys are asking us to do, the Israelis will just blow it up. So we don't even know if these negotiations are taking place in good faith. So what Trump is doing, quite foolishly, is trying to ask Iran to give him permission to blow up the nuclear facilities. They're saying, we don't want any uranium enrichment. In fact, Governor DeSantis of Florida, he chimed in, obviously at the behest of the Zionists, and he said this negotiation with Iran can't be trusted. And he was quite Islamophobic in saying that if Iran is allowed to enrich uranium, they'll make a nuclear weapon, and they'll happily destroy Israel and themselves in the process because they're these suicidal Muslims that believe in paradise. Very Islamophobic bullshit. They're trying to present Iran as an irrational actor. This is very dangerous and destructive, and honestly, it's just treachery. Israel is clearly not America's ally. They will do whatever's in their interests, even if it undermines not only the entire world, but America, their supposed ally that they're best friends with. And you know who doesn't see a problem with that? Ben Shapiro.
A kind of shocking story from Axios yesterday emerged that suggested that President Trump had cautioned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a phone call last week not to take any action that could jeopardize negotiations between the United States and Iran on a new nuclear deal. Okay, so first of all, I have a question. Israel is not involved in those negotiations. Why should Israel hold off?
Why should we fight your wars for you? Now, anyone who's been paying attention to the last 2 years since October 7th knows that Iran hasn't really delivered a major strike on Israel, which a lot of people are really pissed off about. People feel like True Promise 1 and 2 didn't go far enough, and everyone's wondering where True Promise 3 was. Iran isn't really a threat to Israel, at least they're not acting as it now, which we all want, to be completely honest with you, because we want somebody to step in and end the genocide. Still, Ben Shapiro, the Zionists in Israel, they want Iran to be destroyed, and they want to present them as this threat because simply existing and having the ability to have a nuclear program and potentially 20, 30 years from now developing a nuclear weapon threatens their hegemony, and they want to rule as the supremacist, as the regional hegemon of the Middle East. They don't want anyone else having nuclear weapons. The reason why they're so concerned about Iran potentially getting one, even though they're saying they don't want one, is because if Iran gets one, Saudi Arabia gets one, Egypt gets one, Turkey gets one. Now, Israel goes from having a nuclear monopoly in the Middle East to being surrounded by neighbors that have nuclear weapons. Can you imagine the Gaza genocide taking place in the context of all the neighbors in the region having nuclear weapons? That would shift the power balance and potentially creating a scenario in which Israel can't do what it wants with impunity because it actually fears for its safety. Despite all the rhetoric coming from Trump, I simply do not buy that they don't want to go to war with Iran. Even if you took Trump at his word, it is very obvious that the Republicans are undermining him. The members of his own administration are trying to undermine him, as we saw with Mike Waltz, who is coordinating with Netanyahu behind his back to try and convince Trump to greenlight Israel's attack on Iran and have the United States back it. Then you see these quotes coming from Governor Ron DeSantis. So the Republican Party is colluding with Israel to pressure Trump into a scenario in which the deal fails. It doesn't even matter if Trump is genuine or authentic in his claims that he doesn't want to go to war with Iran. Regardless, what we see is that the Republican Party is trying to undermine him and the negotiations. So if you don't want to see Iran destroyed or the Middle East further destabilized or gas reaching $12 a gallon, then you should speak out against this war, because I'm convinced that it's coming. I know all of us feel powerless and helpless right now because we've been raising our voices to try and stop the Gaza genocide and also ask for healthcare and transportation and all these different things that we want to see in America, and it isn't happening. But still, we have to use our voices to try and prevent this war and raise as much awareness about the fact that Israel is a treacherous ally. It needs to be put in its place. Let me know what you think in the comment section.